I will not tell you my last name. If you think that makes this less true, that is fine. I am not trying to sell a book or make a show. I'm only trying to put down a record so I can sleep. If you recognize the places, keep that to yourself. I still live here, and so do some of the people who saw parts of this. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I manage renovations for a small construction company that fixes old houses and turns them into places people want to buy. I know wood and water and time. I know how floors bow and how walls crack. I know what is normal in a building and what is not. I also know that there are things in a house you cannot measure with a tape. I met my wife during a volunteer day after a spring storm. The French Broad River had run high, and a few basement apartments near the river had taken water. A church group put out a call for hands to carry wet drywall to the curb. She was there with a shovel and a soft voice. Her name was Erin. She was small and pale and stronger than she looked. She worked in the shade and took breaks in the shade. When I asked if she wanted a bottle of water, she smiled and said she was fine. Her smile made me feel lighter than I had felt in years. We talked about small things. She listened more than she spoke. I liked that. Our first date was at a diner on Merriman Avenue. She ordered tea and watched steam curl from the cup. She said sugar made her feel strange, so she did not touch the pie. We talked until the place closed, and then we kept talking in the parking lot under a lamp that hummed. She told me she liked old movies and trains at night. She did not like cameras. She said flashes gave her headaches. I said that was fine. She looked at me like that was the right answer. We were married 5 months later in a small stone chapel by the highway. 10 friends came. The sun was bright, and she wore a dress that looked like it had been sewn in another time. She shook a little during the vows. Her hand was cold when I put the ring on, and I thought that was nerves. The photographer said his camera kept fogging, but he worked around it. The pictures came out soft, which I liked. They made the day look gentle. We rented a loft over a bakery in town. The bread ovens fired at 4 each morning, and the smell made waking easy. I left early for job sites. She left notes in careful handwriting. Went for a walk by the river, back before dark. The notes might not seem important to you now, but I think they matter. They were always the same, the river, before dark. The first 3 years were good. We had work, we had quiet friends, we had Sundays with drives on the parkway, we had small rituals, tea before bed, keys in a bowl by the door, her hands in the sink, my hands on the dishes. Sometimes we stood by the window to watch trains push through the cut below the hill. We did not fight about money. We did not fight about much. She did not like when I tried to take her photo on my phone. She would laugh and turn her head. I thought she was shy. I did not push it. I can make a list of the first signs now, but at the time I let each one pass. The motion light over the back door would click on for me and then go dark when she stepped under it. The neighbor's black lab would wag at me, then lower its head and tuck its tail when she came near. In winter, my breath showed white in the air, and hers did not. She said she ran warm. Her hands stayed cold. Once when it snowed, we walked to the park and back. On the footbridge, I stopped to tie my boot. When we crossed again, I looked down for our tracks. I saw the tread from my boots. I did not see hers. I told myself she had stepped where I stepped. I wanted that to be true, and wanting is a strong glue. I came home late one Wednesday in June after a long day of demo. She had lit 2 candles on the kitchen counter. She was sitting on the floor with her back to the cabinets and her knees pulled up. The candles made the room look like it was underwater. She did not look up when I came in. "You okay?" I asked. "I am tired," she said, "the kind of tired that does not go away with sleep." I took her a glass of water. She did not drink it. She watched it the way you watch a fire. I saw a small ripple form and die along the surface. The windows were closed. There was no draft. I told myself trucks on the street can shake a glass if the frame is old enough, and that is also true. Some truths live next to others without touching them. That night, I woke to the sound of water running. The bathroom door was open. The tub was filling. She sat on the tile in her nightgown, knees hugged to her chest. Her hair was wet, as if she'd been out in rain. The cold tap was open full. The mirror was fogged, then clear, then fogged again as if someone were breathing on it and stepping back. I turned the water off and took her hand. It was so cold, it felt like a burn. "Did you fall asleep in here?" I asked. "I could not sleep," she said. "I needed the sound. I do not want to talk about it." I did not force it. I tucked her in and stayed awake until the first train moved in the cut. Her hand held my wrist against her chest, like she wanted to feel a heartbeat that was not her own. When I woke, my fingers ached from how hard she had pressed down in her sleep. I started to see things in glass that did not match what stood in the room. In the kitchen window at night, my reflection would be where I was. Her reflection would be a step behind her, or turned a little more than her body was turned. Once, when our friends came for chili and a board game, I looked up from the sink and saw her reflection watching me while she herself was turned away, talking to them. It was just a second. It was still wrong. I said nothing. The night was good, and I did not want to stain it. The wedding photos began to change. The soft fog that had made them pretty grew thicker. Her shape blurred a little more each week. The paper inside the frames bubbled behind her face as if it had taken on water. I took one photo down and checked the wall. Dry. I checked the frame. Fine. I put it back. I told myself humidity and poor framing can warp paper. That is true too. 2 months later, the neighbor knocked and said kindly that one of us had been out on the back stairs late, and could we please try not to slam the door at 3 in the morning. I said we had both been asleep. He squinted and said he had seen someone in a white dress on the stairs, and maybe it had been a guest. I said it had not. He said okay and went away. I told myself he had seen the curtains move, or had dreamed it, or had a beer too many. I believed him more than I believed me. 3 years and 3 months after we married, I came home to find the floor by the bathroom door wet from the threshold to the hall. No puddle in the bathroom, only a line of damp footprints that led from tile to wood and then faded before they reached the kitchen. The footprints were not the size of her feet. They were smaller, like a girl's. I sat down on the floor and dried them with a towel, as if that would fix more than the surface. I bought a small security camera to point at the kitchen and the hall. I did not tell her. It felt wrong to do that, but I was not thinking clearly anymore. The next morning, I checked the footage. Between 3:16 and 3:20, the picture went to static in a moving pattern, not like the feed dropped, more like it was trying to show me something behind smoke. The audio recorded a low hum that rose and fell in a simple tune. I asked her if she had hummed in the night. She said she did not think so. She did not ask why. I tried to find small facts that would steady me. I asked about her childhood, her school, her street. She gave simple answers. When I called the school office weeks later to ask for an old yearbook, the woman told me there was no student with that first and last name the year I gave. Maybe I had the spelling wrong. I asked about her old apartment. The landlord said he had no file under that name. Maybe she had rented from someone else in the building. He could not help me further. It felt like pulling on a thread that did not belong to the shirt I was wearing. We went to the river on a Saturday. She stood on the bank and watched the current move in long brown ropes. She looked hungry for something she could not buy. I took her hand. It was colder than the air under the bridge. She pulled away gently and stepped back from the edge as if she had remembered a rule. That night I asked if she wanted to see a doctor. She smiled and said she was not sick. She said it like she knew I meant something else, and she was not going to make me say it. I began to keep a list in my job notebook. The dog, the light, the breath, the mirror, the photographs, the camera, the footprints, the water, the song. Writing them down made them touch. When they touched, they made a shape I did not want to recognize. I looked up a local historian who manages the archives downtown. I told my wife I had to look at a building permit. She nodded and said to take my time. The archive room is quiet in a careful way. The woman who helped me had a soft voice. I asked for city directories from the 50s and 60s and pulled the microfilm for newspapers that mentioned floods. I was not hunting ghosts. I was hunting a reason my wife did not show up in the places she said she had lived. I found a last name that matched hers, spelled a little different. I found it tied to a road near the river. I found a line in a directory that said deceased and a year that did not make sense for the woman I had married. I found a newspaper with a headline about a flood and a short paragraph that mentioned a girl whose body had not been recovered. Her first name was the same as my wife's, but spelled older. The paper did not have a photo for the girl. There was a picture of a father and a little sister. The line under the girl's name said, "Missing, presumed dead." I took a picture of the article on my phone and sat in the car with the engine off and my hands on the wheel. I watched people walk past. They looked like people in a world where the ground does not shift. I called home. I hung up before the call went through. I drove back and told myself I would be calm. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she was not drinking. The 3 wedding photos were on the table. The glass had been taken out. The paper felt damp where her face faded. She did not look up when I came in. The room smelled like rain inside stone. "I need you to tell me what is true," I said. She did not make an excuse. She did not run. She put her hands flat on the table. Her palms left prints like water on wood, and the prints did not dry for a long time. "My name is not the name you use," she said. "It is close. Close enough to hear when someone calls. Close enough to be believed when papers are signed. I tried to be a person with a history. I did not take a life. I borrowed a shape where a life might have been." I told her about the article. She nodded once, like a person nods when the last piece in a pattern clicks into place. "I was a girl once," she said. "We lived near Miller's Ford. The river rose one summer and did not stop. The truck rolled. The water took what it wanted. It took my father. It took my little sister. It took me. The river keeps what it swallows until the world forgets, then it lets pieces go. I was a piece that wanted to live. Wanting is strong. I learned to step where water hides, pipes, wells, drift, mist in the air at a fair. I stepped through that mist and found you." "Were you trying to trick me?" I asked. I did not want the answer, and I wanted it at the same time. "I was trying to live," she said. "I wanted a ring and a house and someone who would look at me like I had arrived. I wanted small days and trains at night. I wanted to be warm. I learned rules. Cameras make me thin. Sun makes me fade. Dogs know the truth and do not give me a name. Mirrors correct me. Records have nothing to hold. I tried to walk softly so the world would not push back. It is pushing back now." "What happens to us?" I asked. "I tell the truth," she said. "I return what is not mine to carry. I leave before morning. That is the kindest way I can do it." I told her I would take her anywhere. I told her we could fix this. I spoke like a man on a site, promising what lumber and labor can do. She shook her head. The air around her felt cold enough to ring. "You fix wood," she said. "I am water. Do not keep me. Do not keep the water." We sat together in the dark. The bakery below us was quiet. The trains did not come. The room hummed like a throat humming a low note. I must have slept because I woke with a start at 3:17 and she was not beside me. I found her in the bathroom. The mirror fogged and cleared and fogged. She had written a word on the glass with her fingertip. "Thank." The steam erased it before the last letter finished. She turned the tap off and the room went still. She came back to the table and took off her ring. She put it in my hand and closed my fingers over it. The ring felt like ice at first, and then like a coin a child has carried all day. "What do I tell people?" I asked. "Tell them I left to hear a train far away," she said. Tell your mother I was kind. That is true." She kissed me once. Her mouth tasted like the metal taste of rain. She opened the door. The hall smelled like summer rain, even though it was not summer. The porch light flicked on and off twice. The neighbor's lab howled once and went quiet. I followed her to the door and reached for her sleeve. My hand went through fabric that felt like cold vapor, and that was when I stopped. I watched her walk down the hall and turn the corner. I waited for the elevator to groan or the stair to creak. Nothing. I stepped out and looked. The hall was empty. No wet prints this time. No sound at all. In the morning, the bakery ovens came on, and the smell of bread filled the loft. The ring had warmed in my hand by then. I put it on the table and watched the light slide over it. The wedding photos were still open on the table. Her face had faded into the same soft fog as the day she left, as if the picture had waited to match the truth. I told my boss I needed a week. He said to take 2. I told my mother my wife had gone to stay with a friend out of town for a while. She asked if we were okay. I told her yes, because I do not know how to explain what I felt. My mother brought soup and asked kind questions I could not answer. She put a blanket over my shoulders and said, "Grief pulls heat out of a body." She had no idea how right she was. I did not go to the river. I threw the security camera in the trash. I tried to sleep. Every night between 3 and 4, I woke with the sense that something was standing near the bed. I would lie still and listen and think I could hear water running inside the walls. It was the plumbing. It was not. Both of those are true. On the 3rd night, I heard a knock on the wall behind the headboard. 3 slow knocks, then nothing. I held my breath until I got dizzy. I got up and put my ear to the wall. The drywall was cold. I heard a soft tune on the other side, like a child humming while drawing with a dull pencil. The tune rose and fell. It was the same one my camera had recorded. I did not hum it back. People will ask why I stayed in that loft. It was paid through the end of the lease, and I had nowhere else to go. I kept the windows cracked to hear the ovens in the morning and the trains at night. When it rained, I turned up the radio. I kept living in small pieces. I went once to Miller's Ford. I did not go near the water. I parked and stood by the sign the county had put up with a short bit of history about the flood. A few names were carved into a metal plaque. I touched the letters that matched the last name I had found and said the first name I had learned to love. I left a small stone on the post and went home before the light changed. A month later, I tried to move the wedding photos to a drawer. When I lifted the first one, water ran from the bottom edge onto the table and onto my hand. It was not much, a teaspoon at most. It smelled like cold stone. I set the frame down and wiped the table and held the frame at an angle until I believed it was done. I put all 3 photos in a box and taped the box shut. I wrote nothing on the top. I put the ring in the top dresser drawer with my spare keys and the old matchbooks people still hand out. Some nights I wake to the light over the stove, flicking on and off one time. It is an old sensor, and old sensors misbehave. Sometimes the bathroom mirror has a fog pattern that looks like someone began to write a word and change their mind. Once I saw the letters Thea, then the fog cleared. I did not try to trace the rest with my finger. If you hear a thing like this and think the man telling it is broken, you may be right. I keep going to job sites. I keep telling crews where to cut and where to brace. I still know wood. I still know water. I still know the way floors carry the past in their knots. I keep a hand on chairs for a second after people stand up to feel the warmth they leave behind. I answer polite questions with polite answers. I do not tell anyone about the tune I sometimes hear in the water pipes when the building goes quiet after midnight. Sometimes I dream that she is standing in the river, knees in, palms up, mouth moving. In the dream, I can hear her this time, and she is not singing. She is saying a simple thing that a person says when they are ready to go and ready to be grateful at the same time. Thank you. Then I wake, and the room is cold and still, and there is no water in the tub, and no prints on the floor. If you want to know whether I call this a horror story, yes, it is a horror story. It is a true one for me. It is not loud. It is not full of blood. It is the kind of horror where you love a person, and then you learn that love is the rope that pulls something across a line it was never meant to cross. You are the reason it learned to speak. You are the reason it learned to leave. The last thing I will say is this. If you are ever lucky enough to love someone who steps out of mist and seems to belong to every year, be kind. Do not try to trap them in your house. Do not try to fix them with tools made for wood. Hold their wrist so they can feel a heartbeat. And when the morning comes and the air goes still and the ovens in the bakery have not turned on yet and the hall smells like summer rain in the wrong month, let them go. And if you live in a place with a river and one night you wake to the sound of a simple tune in the pipes, do not hum it back. Turn on a light. Sit with the light. Wait for the train. When the ovens fire and the smell of bread climbs the stairs, pour yourself a glass of water and drink it. Do not keep the water. Let it pass. Keep the quiet instead.